I'm Kathy Koshland, the Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education, and it's my pleasure to kick off this 2017 Library and American Cultures Prizes ceremony. This is always a really exciting afternoon, and great to hear about the projects that our students and others have done. The 2017 Charlene Conroe-Lebeau Library Prize for Undergraduate Research will be awarded, and then the American Cultures Innovation in Teaching and Student Research Prizes also. And I do see Charlene in the back there. Yes, thank you for being here. This event really reflects our campus's deep appreciation of our faculty and students' dedication to academic excellence, and it is our opportunity to celebrate years of hard work and commitment to issues and questions that matter, especially often questions that are really important to the students who are pursuing the projects. As you'll hear from the titles and description of these undergraduate research projects, our students are curious in the inquisitive sense, not curious in the odd sense, although maybe some of them are. And their curiosity is matched with really sophisticated and imaginative research skills. I continue to be blown away as we've been doing this work on the Berkeley Discovery Experience, hearing the kinds of projects that our students are engaged in. It's really amazing. We also want to welcome family, friends, and colleagues that join us today. The awards that we are presenting not only celebrate the stellar individual achievements, but also celebrate the support structure that comes from those with whom we learn and from whom we learn. I especially want to thank the many campus librarians and academic partners whose essential advice and guidance literally made much of the scholarship presented here today possible. A great education like that which we have at Berkeley provides a broad vision for life. And as we know too well, rarely is that broad vision of life as simple as to provide a roadmap to the answers for the struggles, questions, and possibilities of that life. But there's great strength in a broad vision, a vision that includes musicians, policymakers, writers, faith leaders, organizers, scientists, other professionals, all of whom are involved in the work we celebrate today. They're ingredients to the projects. They reflect both different visions from our undergraduates. All of these help to articulate, inform, and shape the way in which they and we view the world. And it's really rewarding and exciting to read their work and to see those visions, the visions of the world, either as it has been in the past, the present, and their ideas for the future. So each year this ceremony and its celebration is a sharp and beautiful reminder of the great and inexorable possibilities that education and imagination can afford. We hope you enjoy today's celebrations. And now let me welcome our university librarian, Jeff Mackie Mason.
Thank you, Kathy. This is one of the most fun things of the year. I'm so delighted to welcome you all to the annual Undergraduate Library Research and American Cultures recognition ceremony for the prizes of those organizations. I'm going to speak mostly about the Library Prize, given my role, and leave the discussion of the American Cultures Prizes primarily to Victoria Robinson, who will be up here in a little bit. The University Library mission is to help users find, evaluate, use, and create knowledge to better the world. In other words, we're here to help Berkeley students and faculty to do research, to find, evaluate, use, and create knowledge. That's why we're here. And so there's nothing more exciting to us than supporting undergraduates as they open the door to discovery and the creation of new knowledge. The Charlene Conrad-Lebeau Library Prize for Undergraduate Research is an opportunity for us to recognize some of the outstanding examples of success of the undergraduates on campus who have opened their eyes and engaged their brains in the process of discovering and creating new knowledge. I do want to say these are not the only undergraduates who had their minds blown by what they could discover and what new knowledge they could generate. Really, these students who we're honoring today are representatives of their classes at Berkeley, of the thousands of students who come here and discover at Berkeley that it is possible to find out new things about the world that haven't been found out before, to generate new knowledge that helps the world move forward and advance. We do this every year on this campus for thousands of students, and these are some of the finest exemplars of success and what they've accomplished, and we celebrate them, but also through them we celebrate all Berkeley undergraduates. Seeing such great success, frankly, is what turns us on in our jobs as librarians. I want to acknowledge the great benefactor who's made this prize possible, Charlene Conrad-Libau, who is here. Charlene, just can you stand up for a moment? I'm going to embarrass you. Actually, I try to embarrass Charlene several times a year, and she's completely unflappable. I've never had any success. Charlene has her bachelor's in sociology from Cal. She spent 20 years as the director of admissions for Caltech. She was a lecturer in the College of Education at Cal State Northridge. She's been on committees to select National Merit, corporate and foundation scholars. She's a member of the Berkeley Dean of Students Advisory Board, and she's the president of Libau Educational Consulting, which works primarily with high school students on helping them prepare for and get into good colleges. I mention all those things because together they make very clear a deep and abiding point about Charlene and who she is. She cares deeply about students. Her entire career has been devoted to students and still is. We were just chatting and I was talking about finding out from her the success of the students she worked with this year and what colleges they're going to be going to, and to see her eyes light up and as she talks about them and their successes is really heartwarming. Charlene also cares about the library at Berkeley. She endowed this prize program for us. She's given generously to the renovation of Moffett Library so that we can provide a connected learning space for our students. She's also given generously to support our social science collections, and she's served, I believe, for 5 years now as the president of our library board. Over the past year and a half since I arrived at Berkeley, Charlene has become my valued partner and advisor, and I hope she would agree, friend. And it's really been wonderful working with her, and I am so grateful to her. So thank you, Charlene, for everything you do, but particularly for the Charlene Conrad-Libau Library Undergraduate Research Prize. We're also here to celebrate 2 other related awards, the American Cultures Innovation and Teaching Award, which recognizes the use of pedagogical developments to enhance students' learning experience in American Cultures classrooms, and the American Culture Student Prize, which recognizes excellent scholarship as well in work taken in American Cultures class that promotes understanding of race, ethnicity, and diversity. Victoria will say more about those, but first I will hand over the podium to Lynn Jones, who will present the Library Prize Awards. Lynn.
Welcome everybody to the library. You're going to get bored hearing this. This is just the greatest thing for a librarian. We do all this work with students. We try to find them what they need, and then we never see what they do with it. It's so frustrating. You kind of go, I wonder what happened when I helped her find this thing. So today is the kind of the circle for librarians. So I'm really thrilled to be able to make these awards. To get right to it. Our first winner is a freshman, winning for an honorable mention, Stephanie Kong, for her paper, An Examination of Forced Marriages and Their Impact under the Khmer Rouge. She's written this for her Southeast Asian 10 class taught by Professor Penny Edwards. She writes, I had never even been inside most Berkeley libraries, let alone used research databases. But Professor Edwards wrote, this spirit of inquiry that she demonstrated in the research and paper that she wrote, rather than the pursuit of a perfect grade or a GPA, is to me the essence of the best in research. And it is the spirit of curiosity and the desire to understand different voices and versions of the past or present that are the hallmarks for original research. So yes, here at Berkeley, even freshmen can do things that are remarkable. And we want to give a hat tip to librarian Virginia Shee, who was one of Stephanie's mentors in the research process. So Stephanie, please come up.
Thank you so much. I guess first I wanted to thank my professor, Penny Edwards, and I wanted to thank the panel for selecting my paper. I'm very, very honored. I wanted to thank Professor Edwards for teaching a great class. Her class taught me a lot about really just opening up a piece of text and being able to understand what it means, and that was something that was really different for me as a freshman, to really be able to understand whatever it was from a piece in Cambodia or a piece in Myanmar, whatever it was. I also wanted to thank my graduate student instructor, Yuen Nguyen. She made me look forward to going to discussion every Friday afternoon, which is not very common, I believe, for most students. And she was really able to help me see the blind spots in every text that we wrote, in every text that we read. I would go to discussion and she'd bring up so many themes and concepts that I wouldn't have noticed myself if she hadn't brought them up, so thank you so much. I also wanted to thank Virginia Shee for guiding me through this process. As Lynn said, I'd never been inside a library before during my first semester, so if Virginia really hadn't shown me around the Southeastern Asian Library or around Moffett or even the Eastern Asian Library, I really wouldn't have known where to start with my research and probably would have been stuck a lot longer than I had been for this project. Of course, I want to thank my friends and family. Thanks for always supporting me and being there for me. I love you all lots. And you guys support me every day and are allow me to pursue all these things like writing a research paper. And on that note, I wanted to talk about my paper itself. I wanted to write this paper on forced marriages in the Khmer Rouge after I'd watched a very heart-wrenching film on the topic. Though it is an unpleasant topic, we can't solve these issues like forced marriage or any issues that we're dealing with today by shying away from them, but rather to discuss them, to research them, and to talk about them freely. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Next up, the winner of the library prize for the lower division, which is freshman and sophomore students, is a sophomore becoming a history major. Leah Chavez for her paper, Miners Undermining Geology, the Gold-Fueled Chokehold on the California Geological Survey of 1860, written for her very first college history paper when she was a freshman. In her research, she found that gold mining interests effectively shut down the first California Geological Survey because they were focusing too heavily on things other than where to find gold. So that's maybe not that surprising, but it was a pretty fantastic amount of research to discover that. She wrote in her Library Research Prize essay, "As I trekked across campus, I began to understand just how interdisciplinary my research was. Aside from the Bancroft and Main stacks, I used materials from Earth Sciences and Maps Library, the Biosciences Library, and the Institute of Governmental Studies Library. In my final paper, I used several books, a myriad of newspapers, and archival materials to illustrate the historical actors involved in the conflict and to construct my argument." And Leah acknowledged librarian Jennifer Dorner, a history librarian, for helping her. Congratulations, Leah.
All right, I came prepared, but I promise it's not that long. All right, first of all, good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. Right now, I'm wrapping up my sophomore year, as Lynn said. However, if someone would have told me last year that I would be here accepting the university's highest prize in writing, I would have laughed at them. I wasn't even in a writing-centric major as a freshman. I was studying chemical engineering. However, after 2 semesters of severe mental health challenges, trying to improve my grades without results, and poor treatment from the College of Chemistry, I accepted that for the sake of my health and happiness, I needed to move on. I decided to recultivate my love of history, something that I have been naturally inclined towards since I was little. I enrolled in History 30, a survey course of the history of science, and the class for which I wrote this award-winning research paper. In this course, I learned about historical contingency, which is essentially a moment in time where things could have been vastly different because of somebody's decision or even pure chance. For example, I might have chosen to take a class other than History 30, or I might have been unable to take the class if it had been full. Looking back with this award in my hands, Taking this course has been a historical contingency of incredible magnitude for me. I learned so much about myself. I realized that I adored the archives, that magical world where half of me is in the present and the other half is peering into the world of the document that I am reading. I began to understand the research process, going from typing in history of science into OSCICAT at the beginning of my research. Yes, that's what it was. To hustling between 3 different libraries for materials in the historian's workout, as my GSI so eloquently put it. It's baffling for me to think that none of this would have happened if I hadn't taken this particular course. I was lucky enough to interact with such caring, knowledgeable, and encouraging instructors. My GSI, Deborah Wood, was always available whenever I had questions. She graded the papers leading up to the research paper with a finessing eye, offering suggestions to improve my argument and my style. My professor, Dr. Rodolfo John Alanese, or Dr. J, as most of us fondly refer to him as, propelled me to my academic heights that I didn't even know existed. Whenever I was confused by a primary source or how to craft my argument, he gave me advice and then immediately sent me back to the archives so that I personally found the answer. I've never had someone in my life who has been so honest, encouraging, and supportive as he has been. He instilled in me the courage to pursue graduate school, to become either a professor or professional historian of science. Words cannot describe my gratitude for all he has done for me. Winning this award during my first semester of a college history class has convinced me that there is nothing that I cannot do. The struggles and obstacles will never stop, but neither will the growing and learning. I can honestly say that I look to the future with optimism and determination. Thank you again for this honor and your time.
Okay, moving on to the upper division students, the juniors and seniors. Winning an honorable mention in the upper division group is Bita Mousavi. For her senior thesis, Victory or Not, we believe this is our duty. Pan-Islam in early revolutionary Iran. Inspired by her passion for post-revolutionary Iranian cinema, Bita effectively showed that Pan-Islamism, not sectarianism, was an original goal of the Iranian revolutionary generation. Her sophisticated use of the library catalog led her to little-known Iranian film journals and newspapers. She followed her sources all the way to Stanford's Hoover Library. The key phrase in her research prize essay for me was, "Rather than dismiss evidence, I recalibrated my research question." Isn't that what we want? She also acknowledges librarian Jennifer Dorner in her research. Bita, congratulations.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much to the committee for putting this event together to honor undergraduate research. I would like to thank my professor Thomas Lacour, my thesis advisor, and Dr. Amy Janelle, who went above and beyond her call as a lecturer to assist me in every step of this process. Researching a topic related to the Middle East in the history department has been exceedingly difficult. We have one faculty member, Professor Christine Filiu, and she does Greek phanariates in the Ottoman Empire, so nowhere near what I was interested in. And Amy Janelle does, the creation of the mandate system. So it was challenging and at times discouraging, feeling that the history department was giving short shrift to this region that I believe to be immensely important to understanding contemporary history and dynamics in geopolitics. But Professor Lacour's levity reminded me of the simple joys of writing and research. Amy Janelle's enthusiasm kept me going. And my mom, though she would not understand and would not be able to tell you what I was writing about, provided me so much motivation. We have the historian's workout. My mom has, her working mom's workout, going to school, work every day, providing for me and my brother. And yeah, she's a constant source of inspiration for me. And thank you. Yeah.
Our next recipient, unfortunately, was not able to make it to this event, but I'll just read off the title. It's Julie Lee receiving an honorable mention for her paper, Warm Grief, Uncanny Narratives of Trauma and Kinship in Oh Jung-hee's The Yard of Childhood, for her Korean 199 class. I think this is the first winner for Korean, so Julie will be picking up her certificate another day. So let's move on to the upper division winners. Our next winner is Ramon de Santiago for his paper Across Three Oceans, Shipwrecks as Early Modern Globalism. He's written this outstanding thesis for his senior art history seminar. He did extensive research here at Berkeley and at a shipwreck museum in Florida. And I'm going to paraphrase what I think your paper says. He used his research to show that ivory carvings found in a shipwreck off Florida gives evidence of global maritime trade between Ceylon and New Spain in the 1600s. How'd I do? Okay. Ramon used materials in Spanish, German, Portuguese. He writes that his favorite method for finding sources is the old-fashioned walk the stacks. Sounds like walk the plank. He told me he likes pirates. Walk the stacks and see what we can find. For example, browsing through all the volumes in the ivory section of the main stacks, which I didn't know we had an ivory section. He gives a hat tip to Catherine Wayne, the retired art history librarian, and to David Eifler, who helped him with Zotero. So Ramon, please come up here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, the Library Prize Committee. Importantly, thank you, Professor Lisa Trevor, who not only encouraged me and supported me throughout this entire process, but was also very patient with my lateral meanderings here and there. Also, I want to thank very especially my cohort and colleagues, my fellow students. So I see here the faces of people that I have worked alongside with. It's funny that we're all here today, but I did not know that any of you were working towards these same projects and these same endeavors, but it's great to be in the same room with all of you guys. Thank you very much.
Closer to home, Justin Germain, in his history thesis, Housewives Save the City from the Cement Octopus, Women's Activism in the San Francisco Freeway Revolts, 1955 to 1967. Justin shows that deep research doesn't require travel. Scanning bibliographies of books, Oski Cat, San Francisco Public Library, the Bancroft Oral History Center, census tracts, San Francisco Chronicle Archive, the Glen Park Public Library Branch, the Historical Photograph Collection, and the Freeway Revolt Special Collection. Justin reveals significant relationships between women's political activism and urban development in the 1960s. He gives his credit to Jesse Silva, the government documents librarian, and also David Eifler, who helped with urban planning. Justin, come on up.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Of course, just a few quick thanks to my professors David Henkin and Peter Solomons for just guiding me throughout this whole process. To Sean Burns, because he leads the SURF program, Summer Undergraduate Research Fellowship, which I would never have been able to do half of this research without that program, so I'm deeply indebted to that program. People in the community who I talked to learn more about this history outside the library, Chris Carlson, Bill Issel, and Evelyn Rose, who helped me find personal scrapbooks of these people that I was studying, which I would never have been able to create a narrative without. Those I interviewed in the community who actually lived through these freeway revolts, Mark Zimmerman, the Bierman family, and Calvin Welch. And of course the people who this was all about, so the women who actually led this movement, Sue Bierman, Joan Seawald, and Zoe Nordstrom. I actually thought of this topic off of Wikipedia. I was looking on San Francisco Bay Area history and just saw that the free revolts had happened. And then I was interested in gender roles and was just like, okay, let's combine these and hope for the best. And it actually turned out to be an incredibly amazing narrative. At its base, it's a social movement, and it's a social movement that has not given recognition to those who drove that movement. And so it's amazing to see the contribution of people who have not been given historical significance, and I hope that I can establish this legacy, because today we see more social movements than ever, and it's important to not just take them at their surface, and to see who's really driving them in the first place. So thank you very much, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Swooping over from freeways to classical music, Theodora Serbanescu-Martin. Her senior thesis in music is titled Brahms's Piano Exercise Mode and the Politics of Friendship. She wrote for her music senior thesis. Her professor, Professor Nick Matthew, writes, her original research is quite astonishing for an undergraduate, based on and inspired by a one-of-a-kind autographed fragment of a piano exercise with a dedication to a female friend by the German composer Johannes Brahms, held in the Hargrove Music Library. Our libraries offer such remarkable experiences to students. Theodora wrote in her prize essay, and this one really got me. She wrote, "To my astonishment, I was allowed to examine the manuscript firsthand and to attempt to hold back tears of excitement." Thank you, music librarians. And John Shepard, where are you, John? John, I saw you. There's John. Thank you. Congratulations, Theodora. Come on up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really honored to be here, and I guess I'm not even sure what to say first, but I'll begin with thanks for Professor Matthew, who has been there for me throughout this entire process, probably my most important project to date, which is the project that has gotten me to think about grad school and to apply to PhD programs in musicology and to inspire me to continue on this path. So thank you so much for all the work that you've done for me and everything else. Also, thank you, Professor James Davis, who has been my other advisor for the thesis, who has helped me just as much with editing and he was actually the one who let me know that the Berkeley Library held this wonderful one-of-a-kind manuscript, which inspired everything. Thank you, John Shepard from the Hargrove Library, who helped me examine the object and find out ways of researching that I had not thought of before. Thank you, every other professor who has helped me through, because I usually talked to every other person, like from my English side, about this project and got kind of cross-inspiration from both my majors in order to write this. And of course, thank you, my mom and my family and my friends, one of who is here today. Thank you so much for all your support and for dealing with my crying/writing sessions at 3 a.m. when I would just stay up all night and just kind of do this for hours on end. It's been a pleasure and just an extremely inspiring process to write this honors thesis, which turned out to be maybe 3 times as long as I anticipated. Anyway, and of course, finally, thank you, Brahms, for everything you're the one who really kept me going through all this. Thank you so much.
Our final upper division winner is Michelina Johnson for her senior thesis, Evading Damnation, Land Use History of the Lower Cosumnes River Watershed. I thank you for putting that in. From 1820 to 2016, her history thesis for History 101. Michelina's prize essay describes a 1.5-year-long quest that led her hiking through the largest oak riparian forest in California, interviewing Central Valley farmers, visiting 8 archives, exploring the literary treasure troves of Berkeley's library system. Her thesis showed her how professional scholars navigate the research process, which all of the students that we've heard from today have had to do, generating a research question, finding, well, they didn't all have to find funding for sources, to locating interview subjects, writing under a deadline, producing a well-crafted narrative. She also found that research can have important real-world implications. With a hat tip to Becky Miller, the Natural Resources Librarian, Jennifer Dorner, History, and Susan Powell, GIS and Map Librarian. Michelena surely has an outstanding career ahead of her. This is her second time winning the library prize, a first. She won in 2015. This does make her unique in the history of the award. Come on up, Michelena.
Hi everybody, I have a couple words on my phone, so 1 second. Okay, first of all, it is an honor to be a two-time recipient of this award. It was something that I was not expecting, and I'm really grateful to have. The second part is that, of course, like all of our projects, mine was by no means a singular effort. I was very fortunate enough to be a recipient of the Haas, be a Haas Scholar, which funded me to do research over last summer. I spent 2 months in the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. As she said, getting to really know this incredible landscape, the Cosumnes River, and learn a lot about how this particular landscape and the Cosumnes River Preserve has become a restoration model, particularly for river restoration for the rest of California. I would like to thank my thesis advisors, Peter Salins and Kerwin Klein, my amazing cohort, of which Ramon is a part, Leah Carroll, who I believe is here, and also just the Haas Scholars Program in general. I had a lot of people come together to edit my thesis, including some of the people that I actually interviewed for the project. So it's been very collaborative, and my thesis is now going to become published online through the Preserve's website. So I'm really grateful for that. There's also a couple of things I would like to share that I've learned along this research process over the past really 3 years of becoming a researcher myself. The first one is through the Haas Scholars Program. I've learned the importance of collaboration and of diversity of ideas and backgrounds in making research possible. So I wanted to challenge some of us to really think about how to make our research spaces very inclusive and very dynamic in terms of the types of ideas that are represented. And I think that today has been a good representation of that, as we have contended with both sort of past narratives and then trying to bring those past narratives into conversation today, dealing also with like forced marriages and topics that are socially pertinent. And I think doing research on those topics, as that one recipient said, really brings those ideas to the forefront and continues the social conversation. I also wanted to say that for my own research, for anyone here who's doing environmental research, that the Cosumnes River, for me, has taught me how important it is to think about collaborations between private and public agencies and thinking about ways to make agriculture sustainable for landscapes. Since the human population is getting so big, we're gonna have to find ways to make both environmental demands and population demands met within one landscape. So having research that's really at the cutting edge of social conversations and issues, I think, is going to become continually imperative, and to find funding for those sources. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. So thank you all so much for this amazing opportunity.
Congratulations to all the great winners and all the other applicants who were so wonderful, and it was so incredibly hard to choose. And now I'm going to turn it over to Victoria Robinson for the American Culture Center.
Sometimes I wonder if this can go high enough, but it's good. How are we all doing? Good, yeah. Welcome, family, friends, academic partners. Thank you, the library, for co-hosting us. It's been a gift over the past 5 years to do this together. So it's an honor to introduce the 2017 AC Innovation in Teaching Award and Student Prizes. And I'm going to be brief in my introductions because really the magic of the awards are the recipients. But first to the Innovation in Teaching Award. The first American Cultures courses were offered on our campus 25 years ago. And for those in the room who may not know what an American Cultures, or what we call an AC course, is, or what they mean in our UC Berkeley students' lives, just briefly, AC courses center a comparative analysis of race, ethnicity, and culture and intend to provide students with the opportunity to engage not only with the past, complex histories which have created our current social realities, but also how our contemporary realities are shaped by both fluid and deeply rooted inclusions and exclusions. It's perhaps not surprising, therefore, that this dynamic curriculum straddling 49 departments and programs at UC Berkeley is thought of as one of the most demanding of teaching and learning environments. It's charged with the responsibility to draw multiple life threads together into conversation, to consider how individuals and communities confront systems of oppression, and to bring to life the fabric we stitch together to bring ourselves together. Such a mandate challenges all in the classroom, faculty and students alike, to create curiosity from contradiction, to fashion collective reflection from uneasy silences, and to make space for the possibilities of new futures. It's in the face of those hopes and expectations that we celebrate today our faculty and student recipients. So too, our recipient for the Innovation in Teaching Award, Professor Lisa Garcia-Bedolla. The formal introductions to Lisa would include that Lisa is the Chancellor's Professor in the Graduate School of Education and Department of Political Science. And a formal introduction definitely requires that Lisa is the author of numerous books, including the award-winning 2012 Mobilizing Inclusion, Transforming the Electorate Through Get Out the Vote. Indeed, Lisa's research sits at the intersections of complications of race, class, gender, and political engagement, with a particular focus on the Latino community in California and nationally. But beyond this summative academic introduction lies a need to extend and story the great appreciation that many of us hold for Lisa's work that stretches from and back into the classroom. For example, Lisa has had an extremely busy week, which might not be much different from the rest of her life, but perhaps this particular week has held an additional level of frenetic, exhilarating busyness. On Monday, she was presenting at the National Othering and Belonging Conference, participating in the Oakland International Workers' Day marches, and then this morning she was speaking at the Cinco de Mayo Call to Action and Civic Engagement Forum, and now is here with us receiving this award. I share this brief description of Lisa's weekly activities not to marvel at her level of energy, although it is marvelous, but as an indication of how the classroom is a part of Lisa's broader engagement and commitment to our academic communities, our local communities, and the past that exist in between. Indeed, this level of energy and deeply rooted inclusion of the everyday in the political is in sum why she was nominated for this award, and indeed why she was selected. Lisa teaches a 200-plus education course, 182 AC, named The Politics of Educational Inequality. And as we can imagine, such a size of class might be difficult to bring an intimacy and framework to, which provides for the individual student. However, as one student in 182 AC wrote in her nomination of Lisa, Professor Garcia-Bedolla is clearly an expert in the field, both professionally and academically, yet she welcomed the student perspectives. Learning in her class is a collaborative endeavor. The diversity of the student body at Cal can fuel powerful learning communities, but only if the professor's teaching style is amenable to it. Fortunately for myself and those in her education classes, Professor Garcia-Bedolla deliberately fosters such a space, which is why I believe hers is one of the most empowering classes I have ever taken in my life. Please congratulate and welcome Professor Lisa Garcia-Bedolla.
Thank you, Victoria. Now I can't talk. Okay. So I was told to be quick. This is an incredible honor. I want to thank the American Culture Center for allowing me to teach in the AC curriculum, and also to the selection committee for choosing me. My partner this morning asked me if this was a big deal. and as partners who are not academics tend to do. And it struck me that I've been doing this for 18 years, and I have been privileged to be recognized for my research. But I often say that I think the place where we have the most impact as academics is through our teaching, in terms of the number of lives we touch and our opportunity to perhaps make someone see the world just a little bit differently than they did when they started. And so being told that I'm doing that right is quite a gift. And this class in particular actually came out of when we were moving to the Bay Area and we were looking for housing, and the fact that many of the schools in Oakland where we were considering living were failing large proportions of their students. And I had a moment of thinking, how is it in sort of the liberal, quote unquote, Bay Area that this is allowed to continue to happen day after day, year after year? And so this class is really an attempt to help students and myself answer that question, and to say that you can't know where you are until you know where you've been. And so it looks historically at the establishment of public schools and really looks at the different kinds of education that was offered and justified for different students, and how that carries into the present day and helps to explain the inequalities that we face. And the second part of what I tried to do is teach students about the system and who's responsible for making decisions at what level, and therefore how they themselves can be involved, should they want to, in our politics, either in education or in other areas. And so it is a great privilege to have the opportunity to share that story with students every semester, and it's an honor to work with the wonderful GSIs that I get to teach with every year. And thank you to Noah Katz-Nelson, who organized this nomination and organized these statements for my previous students that were incredibly humbling and gratifying. And just to say, hopefully, the students who've been through this class come out of this feeling more like they have a place in American politics than they did when they started. And so for that reason, I thank you all, and thank you for this tremendous honor.
It's wonderful. Gosh, so now we turn to our student recipients today. So we celebrate the experience of scholarship produced by students within American Cultures courses. And this is, to echo what Lynn already said, this is kind of a small example of the amazing groundswell of enthusiasm, critical critique, scholastic excellence and emotional power that I find every day in the students that come to the AC courses. The research projects and essays that we are awarding today add levels of analysis and inquiry that so often stretch the classroom in its 15 weeks into a lifetime's commitment. Sparkling brilliance and hard work are of course well known in our Berkeley student body, but what I think has impressed the selection committee who reads for the AC Student Research Prize over the past 10 years has been the presence of what we name as research justice. By this we mean that the students demand of their projects and their papers a presence of multiple voices and multiple deep histories, a justice to the complexity of any project's concern, and that the projects can move forwards and towards and not away from the reader, that their flight path is towards one of legibility for many and not for the few. This year's submissions to the AC Student Research Prize were not only the most ever received, but I think our selection committee would agree with the most phenomenal set of papers and projects we've ever read. It was for all of us the hardest year in the selection process. And I think if this level of difficulty keeps growing, I'm going to have to find a new selection committee. Although the free food might help them keep coming, we provide lunch. So it was so hard that although the committee did ultimately select the two recipients we're recognizing today, the committee strongly felt that this year, for the first time in 10 years, that there was a need to be an additional recognition. And so the recipient of the first ever honorable mention for the Student Research Prize in American Cultures is Thea Matthews. Thea, there is an immense beauty, challenge, irreverence, I love irreverence, courage and hope in the work of Thea Matthews. The collection of poems produced in Aya de Leon's Poetry for the People shook the minds of the selection committee, and we were not alone. In writing to nominate Thea, the following was shared by Aya de Leon. Quote, I have a personal essay in the forthcoming book, Radical Hope, Letters of Love and Dissent in Dangerous Times. And in that essay, I quote Thea, and I credit her for the following. Shortly after the election, she was able to put her resilience into words in a way that electrified an entire classroom. She has that kind of commitment, thoughtfulness, raw honesty, and integrity that makes a profound contribution to any space. Thea, thank you for your collection of poems.
Hello, my name is Thea Matthews. I am very grateful to be here today. Thank you so much, Victoria, for your kind words. Thank you so much for the American Cultures Committee, for all of you who took the time to read what I submitted for this project that I completed, the Poetry for the People, African American Cultures, Class 158A. I'm very grateful. It's intense to be up here. It's a little bit daunting. And I'm just really grateful to occupy this space right now, for how I look physically, for where my ancestry, for who I am and what I stand for. I only see me here. And I'm just very grateful with the work that I submitted to talk really briefly about this project. I mean, first and foremost, I love Aya DeLeon. I have so much love and appreciation for the woman. She has been really carrying on June Jordan's legacy for Poetry for the People, and what this program really represents and provides students at UC Berkeley. There is no other program here on campus that really provides a space for authenticity. In a space, we live in a society that really tends to limit who we are authentically, who we can be, how can we really fully express ourselves, and it's not always appreciated. And so Aya really strives to have the student, just go into your heart and to write from there, and to have it the personal be the political, where, I'm a sociology major. I do qualitative research. I conducted studies, worked on a senior thesis. I totally feel you on the cries at 3 a.m. But to write poetry and to write from a standpoint where you can defy all limits and defy all rules and write from your heart and talk about surviving sexual violence, talk about the ways in which we don't really talk about genocide and rape and how prevalent that is for the American experience. And what does the culture have when we're not talking about about consent, consent and the prevalence of patriarchy. And so my project is now working into becoming a manuscript and a book, a volume and a collection of poetry. And the thesis that I'm actually working on is redefining justice, the emergence of survivorship visibility, and liberatory approaches to combating child sexual abuse in the US. And I'm really grateful for this award. I take this with much honor and pride. I know I can be moody, and I was probably a little bit passive aggressive in my emails.
You were perfect.
Or whoever read them. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Definitely the highlight of my year, this. So our first recipient of the American Cultures 2017 Student Prize, Mark Johnson. Mark has been recognized for a project which I think Mark will allow me to say is a deep passion and which makes his eyes light up. I actually remember when the glint in Mark's eyes was just beginning to happen. We were both in a workshop and we were talking about campus opportunities, great professors, exciting research paths. And one such professor in a class we were discussing was taught by Professor of College Writing, Pat Steenland. The class Water in the West has a deep love written into it. And I think that the love note that this class is to the peoples of California and the cultural wealth, fortitude, and wisdom that comes from really listening to past and present beyond dominant historical accounts might be why Mark fell in love with the possibilities of research in the class. Indeed, the research that Mark started in the class in the archives of the Bancroft Library has been with him since, and now is the source of his Has Scholars project. And although I have repeated research in this introduction to Mark several times, I do think that Mark might better share what working with precious documents, painted full with voices, family histories, and often painful accounts from native California tribes means to him. I think you will see from the glint in his eye that the love for the work and the people it connects to continues. Congratulations, Mark.
so much, Victoria.
Do I get a hug?
Please. Always. Wow, this is a great honor. Thank you all for being here today, especially my mom who came out to see me today. It's great to have you here. Victoria, you've been so much help in, as a transfer student in me discovering not only the American Cultures class that led me to my research project, but also your encouragement along the way has been amazing. Also, Sean Burns, your AC class is totally inspiring, and thank you very much for your support in me writing the proposal for the Haas Scholarship. Also, Patricia Steenland, who's not here today, but she has been awesome in helping me discover this project and supporting me along the way. So, my research is looking at the wealth of ethnographic information that the Bancroft Library has about Native California tribes. And in this process of contacting some of these tribes and suggesting that there's this ethnographic information about their ancestors here at the library, we discovered that many, maybe 38 out of 40 tribes had no idea that this ethnographic information existed. And I'm part of a project now, not only helping these communities gain access to the Bancroft Library and some of the stories from some of their direct relatives, also traditional ecological knowledge that has been lost to the tribe through the acculturation process that has happened over the past 100 years. My research also questions what public access to this information does to these Native communities. And I'd like to thank Jeffrey Mackie Mason for your sensitivity and your accessibility over this issue. You've been amazing. And thank you all very much for being here today. Thanks.
Okay, our last recipient, award winner tonight and this afternoon, Kristian Kim, who I'm going to call Kim. That's how we know each other. It's a joy to be here and see a student that I have had the honor to teach and learn from, for her to receive the Student Research Prize. Before I say more about Kim's work, it feels apt to consider the following quote from Bay Area founded group Movement Generation. And this, I think, really frames the essence of Kim's work. Quote, "The individual is not the smallest unit of society, any more than an individual plant or animal is the smallest unit of an ecosystem. The relationship is the smallest unit of society, just as the relationship is the smallest unit of an ecosystem. It is the complex of relationships that make up an ecosystem, and it is the complex of relationships that make up society." This quote is so reflective of the reality that Kim knows deep within her body, that it is only human connection and the bonds that we form that can truly liberate us. This knowing was at the center of the work that Kim provided for my class, Migra, Masses, and the Carceral State, Inside and Beyond Walls. But the presentation of that work and even its ability for it to be part of a UC Berkeley class comes from the fact that we as a nation lock up, detain, and deport more people than anywhere else on the planet. Indeed, by the end of today, when most of us go to bed, another 300 people will have been deported, and 34,000 will have been held in detention. These are the forces which even made Kim's paper possible. That is a terrible possibility, that her work couldn't happen without the violence of a carceral condition. And it's within this condition that Kim's stunning work was formed. At the heart of Kim's work is the life of Yasmin, and the story of the fight to release her from a year-long period of detention. And stories are powerful, but none more so than those which help us shape the way we view the world, can be in the world, and should be in the world. Thank you, Kim.
So I'd like to thank the committee for this award, and I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that the monetary prize for this award is actually going to be going to the bond of Yasmin, who Victoria just mentioned and who I'm going to be talking about soon. I'd also like to thank Victoria you are clearly guided by such a deep love for the people around you, and your honesty and your generosity with that are really inspiring both to me and to all the people who I know have the privilege of knowing you. And I'd also like to say a quick thank you to my friends who are over here. Y'all keep me going, like on and off campus. You're literally the reason I'm still in school. Like I was being suspended last year in retaliation for organizing work I was doing, and when I was ready to give up, they rallied alongside me, and they're the reason that I'm graduating next week. So a couple quick words on the project. I've found that being an undergraduate is actually full of a lot of despair, which I think is not something we talk about very often, right? Like there's this super hopeful, like, yeah, you're like the future. And it's like, but the ways in which we learn to think about ourselves here is it's such a heavy way of like knowing ourselves, and it's also one that's really rootless in that freedom and power are given to us in the form of this imperial mobility, this ability to go wherever we want in the world with this rootless expertise, right? And to be able to act however and whenever on whomever we choose. And that's just, it's an awful way to live. It's not only imperial, but it's also just doesn't lend itself to pragmatic or really deep and loving ways of being. And the American Cultures course has been a really important intermediary space for me in bringing together theory and action in ways that I didn't really know were possible, in ways that have actually really helped to counter that despair. And so part of that unlearning of despair is something that I've chronicled in the paper that I submitted for this prize, which talks about Yasmin. So she is a mother of 3 who has been incarcerated for over a year now and is facing deportation under the new regime. She's currently fighting for asylum. She has a bond hearing next week. The location and the time are printed in your program. With the permission of Yasmin's family, I brought her case and her story into the classroom with the intention of not only rallying support for her, but also of learning to, of really changing the way that I understood myself as a student. Being thus positioned between the university and Yasmin made me really sharply aware of the ways in which theories need to actually live and breathe and transform to meet the visceral needs of people in the real world. With that, I'd like to invite you to join us next week at 9 a.m. in San Francisco at 630 Sansom Street for Yasmin's bond hearing. Yeah, please join us there beyond merely theorizing violence and injustice in the actual material struggle against it. Thanks.
I think Lynn is going to, yes,
we
together.
would like to invite you to eat, drink, and celebrate all these great people. Thank you.